Hello everybody, Shalom. I hope this video finds you all healthy and doing reasonably well. This coming Shabbat is Shabbat HaGadol. It's the Shabbat, that's the name of the Shabbat that comes before Pesach. And so instead of talking about the regular cycle of Parshiot, I want to discuss Passover, Pesach. And while I won't be with you, unfortunately, this Shabbat as we're all in this physical distancing, I do want to share a few words, I hope, of inspiration as we get ready for the Chag and we get ready for our Sedarim. Now, the central text of the Passover holiday is, of course, the Haggadah. And the central part of the Haggadah, you can say, is the Magid section, the section in which we tell the main story of the liberation of our ancestors from slavery in Egypt. And at the center of the Magid is a text. It's a bit surprising it's there. Famously, there's not much focus on the role of Moses, of Moshe, but what comes at really the heart of the Magid, the story of Yetziat Mitzrayim, is this text from the book of Deuteronomy, from Sefer Devarim. You know it. It begins, "My father was a wandering Aramaean," and goes on, "He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there, but there he became a great and very populous nation." Now, I think that this passage holds the key to the ultimate meaning of the Seder night, the ultimate meaning of the telling. And indeed, it's the central message, the central message of the Seder itself depends on the moment when we read this key passage. And it's not just me. The Rambam, Maimonides, agrees. He insists that this is a key moment in the entire evening and says whoever adds and extends one's interpretation of this passage is praiseworthy. Harei mishubach. Now, in our particular passage, just a reminder, God commands that every year, from the beginning of the entrance into the land and through subsequent generations, each farmer must take from that season's first produce, the bikurim, and bring it to the temple in Jerusalem, which would eventually be established, as an offering of gratitude. The moment is dramatic. The farmer gives the basket of what he and his family have grown that year to the priests, who set it down in front of the altar. The farmer then recites our text, and here I'm just going to read part of the text directly from Deuteronomy. "My father was a wandering Aramaean. He went down to Egypt with meager numbers and sojourned there, but there he became a great and very populous nation. The Egyptians dealt harshly with us and oppressed us. They imposed heavy labor upon us. We cried to the Lord, the God of our ancestors, and the Lord heard our plea and saw our plight, our misery, and our oppression. The Lord freed us from Egypt by a mighty hand, by an outstretched arm, and awesome power, and by signs and portents. God brought us to this place and gave us this land, a land flowing with milk and honey. Wherefore I now bring the first fruits of the soil, which you, O Lord, have given me." Now notice the shift in voice, how the farmer merges his identity with his ancestors. We cried. It was our misery, not only theirs. God freed us and brought us to the land. That's what we're saying on Pesach. We're in the story. It's about us. Most important, notice the shift to the singular in the last sentence. "Wherefore I now bring the first fruits of the soil which you, God, have given me." By the end of the passage, the farmer is not only describing how her or his ancestors appreciated God's blessings and presence in her or his life, but in a deeply personal way acknowledge that presence in our own life, or in his or her own life. This is not a history lesson, in other words, and it isn't even really about the Israelites and about Egypt. Instead, I believe it's an invitation to speak about how God's blessings, and especially the blessing of freedom, how those blessings are present in our own lives. The heart and soul of the Magid, the telling, the heart and soul of the Haggadah, the telling, is therefore to speak in this humble farmer's voice, an I voice. At the center of the Haggadah that moves from slavery to freedom, we are therefore asked to express gratitude for God's blessings and gifts in our own lives. When we get to this key moment in the Seder, we should put down the Haggadah, come out from behind the wall of all the words in it, and find our own voices to express our thanks. Despite our isolation, despite what's missing in our lives right now, we need to find ways to say thank you. Thank you for the freedom and prosperity in which we live our lives here in Canada. Thank you for the incredible flourishing of the Jewish people just 75 years after the Second World War, with an independent state and an incredible culture and life in the land of Israel. And thank you to all the people who are working so hard throughout this world to bring healing and an end to this terrible plague. You might call it the 11th plague that we're all facing together. And so as we get ready for Pesach, I wish all of you a Chag Kasher V'Sameach, a kosher and happy holiday, one in which we're able to dig deep to find the gratitude that we have within us and to express it loudly with our loved ones, either directly, the people at our table, or through computer, or through phone calls, however we're best able to express our connection. Chag Sameach, and I hope to see you soon.